throw more light on the issues of cryptocurrency, I would once again like to invite Mr. Rameesh Kailasam, along with Ms. S. Mohini Ratna, Editor-VARINDIA, to join the Fireside-Chat session. Mr. Rameesh Kailasam is the CEO of India Tech.org, founded by founders of India startups and unicorns and investors in the Indian startup ecosystem. He, throughout the India Tech.org is considered as the emerging voice of the Indian startup around key policy and advocacy issues that affect founders and investments. Over to both of you.
Good morning, and a very warm welcome to the 20th edition of Star Nite Awards. The demand for cryptocurrency is soaring high and attracting the attention of policymakers across the globe. Developing a framework for customer tokens is the need of the hour. We just have heard Mr. Rameesh Kailasam, but to learn more about cryptocurrency and its regulations, let's have a quick chat with him, with Mr. Rameesh Kailasam. Talking about Rameesh Kailasam is the CEO of IndiaTech.org. IndiaTech.org has been working closely for the past 3 years with various government departments and regulators on issues concerning startups and investors. Rameesh advises various businesses in sectors such as online gaming and fantasy sports, cryptocurrency, cab hailing, travel and tourism, fintech, edtech, insurance, e-medicines, manufacturing, FMCG, and etc. So, Mr. Kailasam, you have recently authored a white paper through your industry body and think tanks on cryptocurrency regulations. How has the government responded to the same?
Well, I would say it has been a fairly positive response because till that white paper was written, I think the narrative was largely in the direction of pushing for saying that India needs cryptocurrency, but too much of tangible information on what a regulator would think wasn't there. And I think that is the part that we tried to address. The purpose of the white paper was largely to push for the fact that regulators need to have their concerns addressed. Come what may, any new technology, and this is an open kind of experience that I'm sharing, that any new technology that comes in, it goes through the suspicious grind, especially when it entails people, it entails investments, it entails money and so on. So one of the things that we tried to address was to address all those suspicions and concerns that people had, right from areas of misuse to investor protection to taxability to traceability and so on. And therefore, the 5 things that we did mention in that was to start with saying that ideally this should be an asset class and not currency. The second thing we said was to start with, we may allow Indian founded, Indian domiciled exchanges to be allowed to trade in cryptocurrency. And then of course we also said that only those currencies which run on public ledger may be allowed, and those which allow a kind of traceability for should there be a misuse should be allowed and not necessarily. So to give you an example, there are more than 10,000 cryptocurrencies and tokens in the world today, but only around 200 get traded in Indian exchanges. And the purpose for that is because Indian exchanges have put a filtration mechanism on what should be allowed and what is not. This is primarily for investor protection, to ensure that people who set up something in the morning and close by night, the fly-by-night operators don't end up hurting the investors as such. So that's another layer that we have strongly recommended should be put in place, prescribed by the government in collaboration with the industry. And then of course we have also said that taxability on anti-money laundering, financial action task force recommendations, guidance notes have to be followed, and we have also come up with stringent KYC regulations which have been covered extensively by the media in the last couple of days. And of course, last but not the least, we have also said that there should be a mechanism of reporting. Today, whenever there is any suspicious transaction happening anywhere, there is a reporting mechanism to regulators and so on. This doesn't exist currently for crypto because it's not named anywhere. So what we have said is that it should be, now that the FIU, the Financial Investigation Unit, the FinNets and others should open up and have this category so that Indian exchanges can report any suspicious transactions and so on. So that in a nutshell is what we have recommended. although there are this 5-point recommendation elaborates into 15 points which have now further been developed further into granular notes which we have submitted to government.
So when are we expecting the government to implement these?
So government is currently in the process of writing the regulation themselves, as yesterday it was the finance secretary has spoken yesterday. And where we are looking at is, this is a complex process because you have RBI, you have SEBI, you have Ministry of Finance, you have the taxation authorities, you have the accounting bodies, you have Ministry of Corporate Affairs, and then of course you have the IT Ministry, all of whom have to sit together and come out with their pieces of regulation, and they have to name it. And therefore, we are hoping that maybe some draft may be ready in the winter session, and if it goes into parliament, obviously it will be debated, because we have now a lot of parliamentarians who are aware of this topic and are speaking in public, and we will possibly see either in the end of winter session or in the budget session, most likely, a bill to be passed.
So good news for all the investors. Considering that cryptocurrency and its concepts is not bound by any country or borders, please let us know how it can be regulated.
That's a very interesting question, because the concept of cryptocurrency was meant to transcend borders and cut across borders, and it didn't believe in any particular geography or a jurisdiction. But the challenge is that we all live in borders, and we all live in countries, and we all have elected governments which we are party to. So therefore, and at the same time, if there is an innocent investor who has invested and there's something that doesn't exist as a protection mechanism, who will they go to? So therefore, considering those, and considering where we stand, and considering the fact that not too much is well researched and known beyond a certain point on any of these, it is always safer to have countries regulating, which is why all the more developed countries and mature economies have looked towards regulation. Countries which have a issue with their own currencies have actually made this as a legal tender, like El Salvador, but US, UK, Japan, South Korea, Australia, Canada, and all have come out with some regulation, and they are still evolving. I'm not saying that they have hit gold standard in regulation, and India is also in that process right now. But to your point, I think it needs a larger international cooperation going forward, because these economies have to join hands. China has banned it, Turkey has banned it, but I'm not sure mature economies are looking at a banning route.
Okay. Is there any need for international cooperation in regulating cryptocurrency? Please elaborate.
Well, if I wear my fraud examiner hat, I would say there is a need for international cooperation, primarily because of addressing misuse. Because just as everything has a use case, everything has a misuse case, and misuse case has to be reduced. And for that, if you have people transcending borders, it is better to have arrangements in place with international entities. And my take in this is that recently, interestingly, we had recommended about it in our white paper and subsequently as well. And the Prime Minister had also spoken about it recently, where he said there is need for a greater cooperation amongst democratic nations on cryptocurrency for safeguarding youth and so on. So I think the thought process is in the right direction. The Financial Action Task Force has come out with 40+ guidances, which are being followed by different countries for implementation. For example, there is a travel rule which says you can actually track how it is and who is owning it and so on. So I think those are all good points to be taken towards the regulation, and international cooperation is looking to be more and more important now.
So keeping our chat short, let me ask the last question to you. How do you see regulation of cryptocurrency evolving in India?
Well, I think this is a continuous process, because right now we have seen this animal and we have seen the face of it. We haven't seen how it further behaves. So I would say, for what we have seen, let's start putting the regulation in place, and the regulation should be a continuous evolving one as we all discover it together. So that is what I would say in summary.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ramesh.
Well, I would say that any investment asset goes by sentiment. Jokes apart, somebody moved a bottle of beverage aside from the table and the stock fell down. So that's the sentiment for that goes even with stocks. So my take is that I think the government listing the bill and the explanation that was on side, which was the same as last time, where it said banning of virtual private cryptocurrencies, I mean prohibition. I think that led to a panic where people started selling, and their point of view was maybe India is banning it. Yesterday, I think even the government clarified that too much is being read on the line that is being put on the listing of the bill. So I think keeping fingers crossed, India should be looking at regulation, and banning of virtual private currencies can be read in two ways in government's defense, to say that maybe we meant that we will not allow virtual private currencies to behave as currencies, so they are getting banned as currencies. They may be given asset status, or to say that virtual private currencies which are not on public ledger will be banned, and so on. So to answer your question, it is sentiment. It is all sentiment that drives any investment class.
Now, who is the loser and who are the gainer?
Well, obviously it is a speculative market, so losers and gainers keep changing by the day.
Now, who are the losers and who are the gainers?
The losers will be people who would have dumped it without holding on to it. So I would say that people have to be careful and read through. And one, I would use this platform also to request the industry and of course government and others to invest in investor education and capacity building within government as well, and in the industry is must, because this is an area where you can't be speaking on half knowledge. And that's what I have realized in course of time, that if you know it half, then it is even more dangerous.
So, my question still stands, who are the gainers?
The gainers are people who must have picked it in the panic sale.
How are the crypto exchanges?
Well, crypto exchanges are just the medium, right? They are the ones who are, in fact, if you look at the way Indian crypto exchanges work, you don't even know who is the buyer and the seller, because it goes by algorithm. So somebody sells and somebody wants to buy, the matchmaking is done by the system.
Wonderful. And any mantra you have that the cryptocurrencies value could come up? Any mantra?
Well, what do you mean by a mantra here?
Any idea or any how the people, those who invested money into the crypto, their value will come up, would come up? Any idea you can share?
Well, I would say that there are different, as I said, there are 10,000 types of coins today, and around 200 of them are trading in Indian exchange after filtration process. So I would basically say that people have to be very careful, and this is why I am more insistent that the government and the industry should come out with a transparency process to say these are the 7 or 8 steps of filtration you should apply in mind before you invest, so that they are investing in stable ones and not necessarily getting carried away by things that happen in 1 or 2 days. So the mantra is, do your homework, be educated, do your research, follow the filtration process followed by the exchanges, and then invest.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.